If someone isn't treating you well, putting in more effort isn't going to change that because respect should come naturally. And you deserve to be treated well. And you have every right to walk away from people who choose not to do so. Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me here today. If you're new, I'm Amanda. Welcome to the channel where we are all about shattering the mental health stigma. If you haven't already, please make sure you make sweet up to that subscribe button, give the bell a few kisses so you're not missing any of this content designed to help you with your mental health or help someone else. Today I'm going to be listening to and reacting to Ronald by Falling in Reverse for the first time. I have done quite a few other Falling in Reverse reactions here on the channel. As a matter of fact, the lead singer Ronnie did a reaction to me doing a reaction. It's like reactionception, and he said that I'm just the full spectrum of emojis. So apparently I am very expressive when I'm watching his videos, at least. I don't know if I'm like that with all of them, but apparently I'm very expressive, and I just thought that was a funny little nod. I thought that was a funny little thing. I guess that's my claim to fame now, is I am a full spectrum of emojis. But before we dive into the reaction, I want to give the biggest shout out ever to the sponsor of today's video, Magic Mind. So I had to go about a week without my Magic Mind shots because I forgot to restock. I forgot to do another order, and between you and I use my own coupon code to get more of these because they genuinely help me. I take them every single morning, and they really do help, as they say, reclaim your brain. That's what the side of the bottle says, and it really has helped because while I have a strong set of stress management skills in my toolbox, sometimes it's just nice to have something that is a little hands-off that gives you that boost. And I can't drink caffeine. It gives me panic attacks when I drink it in coffee or tea or energy drinks, but this is a low-dose caffeine, and it has nootropics and adaptogens and antioxidants that help boost my energy naturally, so I'm not relying on the caffeine aspect. And it really does help me have a sharper mind. It helps me focus more, it helps me be able to manage stress better, and it helps me maintain my energy instead of having that high and low, the crash and stuff. So if you want to get your own Magic Mind shots, go to magicmind.com/mentalamanda for 20% off. I swear you will thank me later. They make a huge difference. Thank you so much, Magic Mind, for giving me my morning boost and for sponsoring this video. Let's dive into the reaction. Ronald by Falling in Reverse. This is so much more aggressive and guttural and fierce than the other Falling in Reverse songs I've listened to, where he's got the growl, he's got a lot more anger, and it just jumped right into it. There was no buildup, it just jumped right into it. So I know what he's talking about isn't everyone's experience, because some people tragically never knew a time when everything was okay. And if that is you, my heart breaks for you in a completely different way. But there's also something to be said for knowing what it's like for things to be good and feeling the mourning of having that stripped away from you. And like Ronnie is talking about, I remember a time when everything was all right. Not perfect, but I felt like I had that unconditional love from my parents, who are now gone. They're not with us anymore. And I just can't find that, not even with my son or my partner or my best friend. It just doesn't feel the same. It's not as powerful. It's not as strong, or at least not in the same ways. And I feel like at that time I had my whole life in front of me, and with that came hope. There was hope for my future, that I could be the person that I aspired to be, and there wasn't this clock looming over me just deafening me with a tick, 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 tick. It felt like when I was younger there was more time, there was more space. You had the chance to mess up, and it wasn't as big of a deal because you felt like you could still pick up your pieces. And then once you get to a certain age, you're going, ah, and I feel like that's where people get into the realm of midlife crises, is when they're going, oh gosh, and they can either crash or they can pivot and say, okay, it's time to reinvent myself. It's time to see where we can go from here. But the visuals just represent, you know, being kind of plucked out of your life, being tossed into this situation that you might not understand, that you don't know what's going on. You feel very defenseless.
From the depths of the 36 chambers, I'll pull the trigger, give a bullet to a stranger. Nice. I pull from the depths of the 36 chambers. Pull the trigger, give a bullet to a stranger.
Okay, let me make sure that I'm seeing this correctly. Okay, I'm still learning to understand this kind of music, to understand these lyrics, so I had to take a glimpse there. But expanding on that idea of having hope once upon a time, it extended to hope that despite the bullies that I faced in school or from my peers and the psychopaths I saw on my mom's true crime shows, because she would watch those with me even when I was really little, which now I understand the impact of, but at the time I did not really. I believed that people were mostly good, and seeing the depths and the prevalence of how selfish and how cruel humans can really be as I grew older and I experienced all these traumatic things starting at a fairly young age and moving up from people outside of my family, it really broke me in ways that I can never completely mend. Those things never go away. They are some part of us. We can heal, we can move past them, but they are ingrained in our DNA somewhere. This stuff is ingrained inside of us. And sometimes it can feel like you're just holding on for dear life because it's exhausting not knowing who you can trust, or not knowing when things are just going to start flying around and hitting you and you feel like you can't shield yourself from them. And in fact, feeling like you can't even trust your own mind. So you might feel like your own thoughts can't be trusted because of certain conditions, or just because of anxiety, or your shadow from your depression can tell you all of these things. And the world does often seem cold, and I often feel like I don't belong here, and not necessarily in the sense of being suicidal, but just I feel out of place, you know, and that people judge me and crucify me, like he's talking about, villainize me, when all I'm trying to do is survive and maybe, just maybe, leave this messed up place a little bit better than I found it.
The trench of a place unknown lies a dead man clutched to the bottom of a throne, at the bottom of a hole that nobody wants to go. It's the devil that you know that's got a hold upon your wicked soul. Some of your mind and you're thinking the devil is making the crime, of the people are evil and never know demon design is the opposite of a divine. No! Yes. The hell is in front of you, side and behind. I can feel every sign of a human decline. I'm believing the time is upon us when all of our people are blind. Yo! Red rain, saw it falling from a tower's dead plane. Head bangs, Mandalay Bay Hotel out of lead cane. Sex change could get you caught up in death's range. He played sane, but really imitating Ed Gein.
How did we get this way? Nigga, that shit to say, but I get this way. Having a fit today, so they wanna make a bitch decay.
My son's mom went gone, it was really wrong. I thought it was gone. The vomit searching for my son, but I didn't go John Muhammad.
So the devil's right here on this level, wipe tears. Cause when rebels ready to pop the heavy metal, I fear.
Abomination, they've been faking, consecration, hating, wasting education. Got the killer on the killer, gotta chase him. Go! Go! Spiraling out of control and deeper down the rabbit. Never gonna let them get the most of what they'll have to resurrect. Suicide, doing the best I'm taking it down. I'm not giving blood, but I stay stuck on.
Rising above, okay. I have so much to say, so I hope you're here for it, but I think that it ending so abruptly, just like it started so abruptly, is really telling. And I know I've told you guys this on the channel before, but I think the context is a bit different here. That my dad's last fatherly advice to me before he passed in 2005 was, don't give up hope, because you never know what will happen tomorrow. And we were just talking about losing hope as we get older, but this is a reminder that we never know when things are going to change. We never know when things will shift. We never know when we're going to see the fruits of our efforts to heal, or our efforts to step into that person that we want to be. And I think that understanding that things can change like that helps us to be able to develop a strong stress management toolbox, as I was talking about earlier, but also having those panic rules so that when we are in that place, unexpectedly, we kind of have defaults that we turn to so we don't spiral out of control. But there is the imagery of him being in the middle of the storm with the other artists here. He's in the center of the storm, and then there's this beast that rises out of the ground, out of the earth. And I think that that could be the devil, that could be the evil of society, that could be the darkness in us, the shadow that we're having to fight ourselves. But he had a way to fight back. He found a way to fight back, and then you see him physically rising. So he's physically rising above that. I think that it was weird that I explicitly mentioned my mom's true crime shows earlier in this reaction, and then he's mentioning the Mandalay Bay situation. I'm assuming was talking about the 2017 shooting in Las Vegas when Stephen Paddock opened up fire on the Country Music Festival and killed a lot of people. He was shooting out of Mandalay Bay. And then he was mentioning Ed Gein, who, oh goodness gracious, he was an incredibly disturbed man. And he did kill at least a couple of people, but then also he was suspected of killing quite a few more. But perhaps the most notable and disturbing thing was that he exhumed bodies from local cemeteries to fashion things such as bedposts and belts from parts of those people. So this guy was very, very, very unstable. And some body parts he just kept. And I'm not sure whether that was just for funsies or whether he never got around to doing anything with them. But Ed Gein always gave me a special type of heebie-jeebies. I do remember learning about him when I was watching true crime stuff with my mom, but I'm now studying forensic psychology. I decided to go back to school and have chosen to get my degree in forensic psychology. I'll get my bachelor's this fall. But we talk a lot about Ed Gein and how he is one of the people that really represents this darkness in civilization, like this darkness in our society. And I think that's what Ronnie is really driving home here, is this theme of evil and societal decay. And there's a couple of things here in the lyrics. He asks, what is up in your mind, which I suppose could be interpreted to be aimed at these aforementioned individuals like Ed Gein or Stephen Paddock. It could be that way, but I think it's more toward the listener, toward us as the listener to this song, because it's forcing us to reflect on the depravity of our own thoughts, those thoughts that we never share, that we keep secret, that we feel ashamed of, that scare us, that darkness inside of us. And maybe he's asking if we acknowledge that darkness inside of us, if we acknowledge our own potential for evil that's in there. That's why the song title is his name, because I think he's acknowledging that potential to be part of that he is acknowledging that part of him that is the darkness. And there's a book called Ordinary Men that I read, and it's about a unit of average Germans during World War II, just average everyday men that had never had a history of being violent or anything as far as we knew, but who ended up becoming cold-blooded killers that took out thousands and thousands of Jews in World War II. These are ordinary people. And I think that Ronnie is reminding us that we all have the capacity to go in that direction. And as the lyrics say, some people blame the devil and blame that entity for that evil within us or for evil actions. But I think blaming it on an outside source, on an outside force, that there's just this evil force out there, I honestly think that that is abdicating personal responsibility that is necessary to truly address this issue. If we want to truly address it, we have to face our own beast, our own shadow, our own monster, and we have to accept that part of ourselves and find a way to kind of not necessarily beat it, but find a way to overcome it, find a way to be friends with it, find a way to work with it. And there is dark in us, there's dark in all of us, but there's also light. There's light in all of us, a light that could really truly not only heal ourselves but heal other people. And I'm not saying that in an energetic hippie woo-woo way, but if we lean more into the light than the dark, then we have the capacity to work on ourselves, to work on our minds, and to project that outward and make a difference in the world. And when he's talking about the pain of his son's mother leaving, is this actually part of Ronnie's story? I don't know his story, but I'm assuming this is actually part of his personal journey, and that's why it's in his lyrics. But he talks about how he could have justified violence and his anger because his grief was so intense. And this really struck me deep because I felt that myself, where I just say, oh my gosh, I could totally justify doing really bad things because somebody wronged me. And I feel like I have that righteous indignation, and I really just want to get revenge. I want to inflict the pain they inflicted on me, but he chose not to do that. And it reminded me again of my dad, when my dad was really abused by his father. And it's very common for people in those situations to then perpetuate that violence when they have children or to other people in their life, because it was normalized to them, and it is seen as a way to act out, to respond to the anger we're feeling. And it would have been really easy for my dad to justify doing that to me. And my dad never raised a hand to me in anger. And he could have justified that. Ronnie could have justified acting out in anger and violence toward his ex. But then we become just like that. We become the person that we hate. And I think the song, it really expresses a strong stance against allowing those malevolent forces to come back. So these forces from the past that have dominated in society or dominated in us, fighting against those, fighting against allowing them to dominate again, whether in us or externally, but giving the themes of societal collapse and battling evil and personal struggles. I think that the final lyrics there really reinforce his resolve, and the resolve that he is encouraging us to have, to not let those dark influences, again, whether internal or external, regain or gain footing in the first place, their control and their power. I love his ability to storytell. It's so powerful. The imagery really always goes very well with the song, and that's not always true for every artist, but he has a really innate way of using the visuals to complement his story, to complement the lyrics, and really hitting deep. And I liked that the sound shifted because it was more personal. And when it's more personal, when the story, obviously Ronald is about him, when the story is about him, it has more energy that's trying to come out. So having that guttural growl, having that emotion is really appropriate here, I think. And I loved it. I always love getting into more Falling in Reverse. It was a band that I was introduced to here on the channel, and I've actually been able to process some things through listening to the songs that I've listened to here on the channel. So thank you very much for introducing me, and thank you, Ronnie, for being able to give us that space, to give us lyrics that validate some of our feelings and experiences, so we have the space to process together. Good, bad, and crazy. Make sure you're sharing your mental health stories here in the comments. That is how we shatter the mental health stigma, is by talking about it, by being transparent, by not giving our shadows power. When we share, when we open up, when we talk to other people, and we put ourselves out there like that, we're taking the power of that darkness away. So make sure you're sharing your stories here in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up, share it. You never know who might need to see it. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you soon. Mwah.